starting the presentation in a few minutes. If people could find a seat, we'd appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. Would you like to take a seat so we can get started? Yeah. Steph. Okay.
Thanks.
I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. There are some more seats up here if anyone wants to sit. As all of you know, because you've turned out this evening, the topic is the exit 59 interchange, or Route 15. And for all of us in Woodbridge, and parts of New Haven, and Bethany, we know what a terrible spot that can be, particularly at rush hour. For someone who commuted to Hartford for 6 years during rush hour, I can tell you a 5-minute ride often took me a full half hour just to get on the parkway. We also know that this is very important for the economic development of our town. It is not conducive to businesses coming in if they know that they can't get in and out of the businesses because of the traffic. So we are very, very pleased tonight that DOT is here to give us an update on the work they've been doing for this plan. And we're also particularly happy that the meeting is here in Woodbridge, and we thank DOT for agreeing to come here to Woodbridge to speak with us. I just want to say 2 things before I turn the meeting over to DOT. One is, you've all been asked to sign in on the DOT sign-in sheet. We also have a sign-in sheet for Woodbridge residents who would like to be on our listserv. We're working very hard to get the message out about various town events, and we'd like to start more routinely sending out emails. So Betsy, if you would just wait. Betsy has the sign-in sheet, and if you haven't signed it and you would like to, please stop by there on your way out. And also, I'd like to mention an important upcoming event which is related to this meeting tonight. As some of you may know, we are updating our plan of conservation and development here in Woodbridge. It's something we do every 10 years as required by state law. And part of the process has been town meetings, which are called charrettes, where people get together and talk about their vision for the town of Woodbridge over the next 10 years. The first charrette was last Saturday. We had over 70 people there, and a lot of very good, innovative ideas have already been generated. So if you didn't make it last Saturday, or if you did and you'd like to discuss this more, please note that next Thursday, May 29th at 7 o'clock, there will be a continuation of the charrette here at the town center. With that said, I'd like to turn this over to Melanie at DOT, and again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I want to thank you all for coming out today. I know it's raining outside, but hopefully not too bad. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Melanie Simieski. I'm a Transportation Supervising Planner of the Intermodal Planning Unit at Connecticut Department of Transportation. I'm the project manager for this study, and with me here tonight I want to make a few introductions. We have Colleen Kassane, who is the Transportation Assistant Planning Director for the Strategic Planning Unit, which I work under. We also have Jerry Gluck from our consultant team. He's the project manager on the consultant side from AECOM. From Fitzgerald and Halliday, we have Jill Barrett. We also have Stacy Graham Hunt, and we also have Marcy Miller. And in the back there, we have Bill Anderson from PHB. I just want to make you all aware of the team here. And now this study came about in 2009, so we've come a long way. We've looked at, we've had to take time to look at the existing conditions in the area, gather data, analyze the data, come up with concepts. We've gone through over 24 concepts. It's been a long process, but we're finally at the end here. We're here to present the findings to you tonight so that you're all aware and that you can give us your comments and your feedback. At the end of the presentation, I'll be giving an overview of something you may or may not have heard of. It's the Harrell's Tunnel Alternative Construction Option Study, which is going to kind of go hand in hand with the area. Harrell's Tunnel obviously is the tunnel north of the interchange, and the study area is going to be revisited as part of this tunnel project. So I'm going to just kind of bring you up to date on that. And also, since there's a good turnout here tonight, I'd like to please ask you, if possible, to hold your questions towards the end of the presentation, just so we can get through everything. And we'll be glad to answer your questions, either while we're up here or one-on-one, either way. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jerry to start the presentation. And again, thank you.
Thanks, Molly. So what I'd like to do is just spend a couple of minutes giving you some of the study background, and then talk to you about why did we have to look at 24 different concepts to get to where we are now as part of the development of improvement concepts. And then I guess what most everybody's interested in is what's the recommended plan? What are we recommending as part of this study? And then we'll wrap up with the discussion of the next steps. Just a quick review of the study area. Here's Wilbercross Parkway, Route 15. This is interchange 59. Here you have Route 63, Whaley Avenue, Amity Road. Here's Route 69, Litchfield Turnpike. So we're looking at interchange 59 as well as routes 63 and 69 because they all form one complex that is very dynamic in terms of the traffic operations and safety implications. The study was initiated because there were a number of very high accident locations in the area, and we'll get into a discussion of where they were, as well as the congestion, as was noted earlier. And as I noted, we're looking at Route 15, interchange 59, as well as Route 63, 69. The southern end is Davis Street, the northern end is Bradley Road. And the plan from the beginning was to come up with a recommendation that makes sense for improving the conditions in the area. Study goals, based on what the initial issues were, definitely safety, reducing congestion. Also, an observation you make when you're out there is that the sidewalks aren't continuous in a lot of sections. So it would be to improve the pedestrian accommodations. And a lot of the issues that you see on Route 63 and Route 69 are related to the connectivity to Route 15. So that's a major issue that had to be dealt with in terms of improving the local operations. And we did have meetings throughout with the stakeholder group, and we bounced off the ideas with them, and that's how we were able to narrow down the concepts and come up with the recommendations that we're presenting tonight. Okay, this is not a wide open area that we have a lot of room to work with. There's a whole project context that we need to take into account. It's a developed area. You can see the commercial area that's right next to Route 63 and 69, and as well as the residential. And a lot of that development, a lot of those businesses and houses are right along Route 63 and 69. So that definitely is a consideration that we had to take into account. In addition to that, there are environmental resources in the area. Particularly, there's the West River, which is right next to Route 69. So that had to be taken into account as we formulated the concepts that we were considering as to whether to progress. So basically, here we were, and this explains why Melanie, as indicated by Melanie, we developed 24 different concepts, because we were trying to balance various needs. We knew we had to improve operations and safety, but on the other hand, we were constrained by the density and the location of the development in the area that limited how much right-of-way was available and that we had to work with. And in addition to that, there was the West River that we definitely had to consider as we formulated the recommendations. It's important to recognize that when recommendations are formulated, there are design criteria that have been established that are intended to be followed so that there is some uniformity as roads are built and roads are upgraded. So all that led to why there were 24 concepts and how we then developed what we consider to be a realistic way to proceed based on assessing them. So the recommended plan has 3 levels of improvements. There's what we call the near action, alternative 1, which is medium term, and alternative 2, which is longer term. It's important to recognize that ordinarily you have alternative 1 and alternative 2, and it's a matter of do this one or do that one. In our case, alternative 1 and alternative 2 work together. So the medium term is alternative 1, and the longer term is alternative 2, and it builds. So it's to be done along with alternative 1. In terms of the near-term actions, this is an intersection that we're all familiar with. Here you have Route 63, Route 69, Wright Avenue, the driveway to Walgreens, Ruger's Bagels. Very big, open, expansive pavement at that intersection. And the short-term option would be actually something that was developed by Conda as part of the previous project in the area. And it's to provide for channelization. There are 2 different concepts that are shown here. And basically the intent of the channelization is to, first of all, help direct drivers through the intersection, because it is such a wide, expansive pavement, it's not that easy to negotiate through. But the other purpose of the channelization is also to help pedestrians who are crossing the intersection, to help show them a path, and to actually provide some pedestrian refuge islands if they're not able to cross all the way in during one signal indication. This would be consistent with the City of New Haven's initiative for complete streets. Alternative 1. Let me orient you first, and then we'll get into the specifics. So here's Route 15, Wilbur Cross Parkway. Here you have Route 69, Route 63. The intersection we were just looking at is down here somewhere. Lucy Street is just to the north. And in the existing interchange configuration, if you're coming off of Route 69, you loop around and the ramp terminates on 69. Coming off of southbound Route 15, you're coming off, the ramp terminates here. And if you want to continue on to northbound Route 63, what you have to do, is you turn left, and turn left on Lucy. What that does is it increases the volume of traffic on that section of Route 69. It also increases the volumes along Lucy Street. And it's traffic that really doesn't want to be there. They need to use that route to be able to get to northbound Route 63. So what we are providing in alternative 1 is this connector road that improves the connectivity between Route 63, Route 69, and southbound Route 15. Now, let me just point out that there is still a question in terms of where should this western terminus of the North Connector Road be. If you looked at the boards, we showed 2 different options. One is a little bit to the north, which is by the bank. Then we show another one, 1A, which uses the existing location of the southbound entrance ramp. So that's one issue to be worked out. Plus, there are other concepts as well, other locations along this section where it would make sense. It provides opportunities for aligning with a major driveway to Amity Plaza that would be signalized and that potentially could even allow for the elimination of the traffic signal at Sunset Drive. So there are a whole series of design issues that we need to work out in this area in terms of where should this western terminus be. In addition, the other part of alternative 1, which is very significant, is the fact that we would be improving the southbound off-ramp and the southbound on-ramp. I'm sure we're all familiar with that on-ramp that basically is a stop condition. So you're stopping and you're trying to accelerate up onto Route 15 as the traffic that's through on the parkway is coming down from the tunnel and going very fast, using a non-technical term. So it's very difficult. It's the source of it's the location of a lot of accidents. What this would be doing, this would be providing an acceleration lane to allow the traffic that's turning onto southbound 15 be able to merge at the highway speed or the parkway speed. The same would apply for the southbound off-ramp. Currently, if you're exiting here, you're slowing down longer in the through lane, and you're backing up the traffic behind you, which in a way is a good thing, because what it does is it provides gaps for this traffic to be able to get on. But in this alternative, we'd be upgrading both the off-ramp as well as the on-ramp. There were also some other intersection improvements that would be made as part of this, and I can show them to you on the next slide. So we would be improving this section of southbound Route 69 Enfield Turnpike from south of Lucy to where southbound 69 already widens out to 2 lanes. It's around Starbucks, the Yarn Barn, that area. So there's a short section of Route 69 that's south of Lucy that will be widened out to 2 lanes. In addition, there would be a section of southbound 69 approaching Lucy Street that would be widened down to 2 lanes. It's to improve the flow traveling through here to be able to access onto the North Connect Road and onto the southbound Route 15. In addition, at the terminus of the North Connect Road on Route 63, Amity Road, we would be providing a northbound right turn lane and a southbound left turn lane just to facilitate the flow of traffic onto the connector road. We projected, or actually we received traffic projections for the year 2030 from ConnDOT, and we ran analyses of what the traffic conditions would be like with and without alternative 1. And what it showed was that there would be significant improvements at Lucy and Route 69 because of the reduced volumes on Route 69 and Lucy Street, because the traffic that currently has to come off and turn onto 69 and turn onto Lucy to get onto 63 would no longer need to do that. They'd be able to come off directly and turn directly onto 63. So there'd be lower volumes in this section of 69 and Lucy. So there'd be significant improvement at that intersection. There would be also a significant improvement at this intersection, at the existing intersection where the southbound ramps interchange with Route 69. Because what happens now is it's a very complex intersection where the signals are operated so that the traffic that's coming off of southbound 15 does not back up onto the parkway. Whereas by realigning this ramp and upgrading the ramp and bringing it onto the North Connector Road, it gives us a whole lot of flexibility in terms of retiming and reoperating that signal on Route 69 at that intersection. So that's why there are significant benefits at that intersection as well. And then, because of the proximity of this intersection of Route 69 at Pond Lily Avenue, these 2 intersections are so close to one another, they're actually operated together as a unit in terms of the signal coordination. So by improving this intersection and coming up with a different and more flexible signal timing plan, there are actually benefits that are observed here as well. There is one other location at Route 63, Amity Road, and Lucy Street, where we see some improvement, not as significant as the other locations along Route 69, but there is some improvement during the morning peak. Okay, alternative 2. So up until now in alternative 1, we were looking at the section, the area north of Route 15, north of Wilbur Cross Parkway. Now we're looking at the area south in terms of what we can do to try to improve operations for the northbound movements. Most of the things I've spoken about before really relate to improving southbound flow. These relate more to the northbound flow. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with, if you're coming down on Route 69 and you want to go northbound onto Route 15, you have to turn left at Pond Lily. And actually, if you're coming down from Route 63, you also have to turn left on Pond Lily. Everybody has to turn left on Pond Lily if you want to enter onto the northbound Route 15. That's the only entrance. What alternative 2 provides is it provides this loop ramp So the traffic that wants to go northbound on 15 would keep to the right, and then the loop ramp that would bring the traffic up onto the parkway. But what we would need to do, this ramp, the existing ramp, would be retained. We are not removing that ramp. There would be two ways to access northbound Route 15. But what we are doing is we're reconfiguring the way it emerges onto the parkway so that it would merge with the loop, and then those two moves would merge together onto the parkway. That way we're able to meet the design criteria. In addition, we're upgrading this northbound off-ramp. The northbound off-ramp now, if you're using it, you have to decelerate while you're in the through lane to be able to turn off. So this would provide more deceleration length to be able to do that. Now there is a question here too in terms of this ramp terminus. Currently, this northbound off-ramp terminus at Route 69 isn't signalized. One of the things that needs to be figured out would be, should it be signalized or should it be retained as an unsignalized intersection? I don't know if you can see the numbers, but what these numbers represent is the volume of traffic. It's 510 vehicles in the morning peak and 390 vehicles in the afternoon peak. Peak hour, 1 hour. That's how many vehicles would be rerouted from making this left turn to access onto northbound Route 15 to being able to use this loop ramp. 510 and 390. Now, the left turn onto Pond Lily would still need to be retained because you do have the traffic that's turning left to be able to continue on Pond Lily. So the left turn would be retained, but the volumes would be a fraction of what they would be if that left turn was to be continued. Now, from the analysis, what we show, as you will imagine, a significant improvement at this intersection of Route 69 and Pond Lily. Now, one of the things that we had looked at to make it even better at this intersection was a northbound right turn lane from Route 69 onto Pond Lily. Because that still is a heavy volume, because that's how the traffic would be going from Route 69 onto northbound, from northbound Route 69 onto northbound Route 15. So we looked at the possibility of adding a right turn lane for that movement. But because of the proximity to the West River, there are more environmental studies that need to be done. So we're showing it as an intersection improvement, but we're calling it as an optional improvement, or as an optional item that should be considered as the study progresses and more environmental investigation is done. So just a quick review in terms of the improvement packages. So we have the near term, which is the channelization at that intersection of Route 63, Route 69, Wright Avenue, Ruger's Bagels, the Walgreens drugstore. Then we have Alternative 1, which is the North Connector Road, as well as upgrades to the southbound on-ramp and off-ramp. Then we have Alternative 2, which again builds on Alternative 1, which provides for that loop ramp from southbound Route 69 onto northbound 15, as well as also upgrades in northbound off-ramp. And then we have those spot improvements at some specific intersections to make the conditions better. But there are still some outstanding issues, design issues that need to be resolved. And this is really a review of some of the things I had mentioned as I went through the presentation with you and spoke about alternatives 1 and 2. Actually, this photograph shows the West River. Here's Route 69, here's the West River, and this is that northbound off-ramp, which isn't signalized. The question is, should that ramp be signalized or not? Does it meet the warrants? And then the other question is, should that northbound right turn lane, or could that northbound right turn lane at Pond Lily be added? But that will require further environmental studies. It's important to recognize that even after making these improvements, you're not going to have free-flow traffic conditions. You're not going to be able to travel anywhere near the speed limit. You're still going to have some congestion, but it'll be scaled down and it'll be a lot safer than it is nowadays. There is the question I mentioned in terms of the western terminus of the North Connector Road. There are several different alignments that could take, and depending upon which alignment, there are different opportunities that could be provided, especially if it could be worked out so that the western terminus aligns with Amity Plaza, and that would become the major access to Amity Plaza, that signalized intersection, which could then potentially replace the traffic signal at Sunset Drive. Because one of the issues along Route 63 and Route 69 is the frequency and the close spacing of the traffic signals. So eliminating one of those signals could provide benefits. You know, this is a good photograph that shows what pedestrians have to deal with. You know, it's a well-worn path, but yet there's no sidewalk, but there's a need. So one of the things that needs to be addressed as the project progresses is how do pedestrian needs get better accommodated? How could there be potentially a continuous sidewalk through this area? As well as there are bicyclists that use the roadways. What kind of accommodations could be provided to them? And then the last design issue relates to the North Connector Road. Now this shows the rough alignment, but the question is, should there be limited driveway access allowed to possibly improve and make safer the access to these developments? Because right now, it's very difficult and very unsafe to try to turn left at a Starbucks, and it's also very questionable if you want to try to turn left into Starbucks. So there might be a potential here for providing limited access, limited driveway access to some of the budding properties. It would have to be looked at as part of an overall plan. Okay, in terms of the next steps, we look forward to getting your comments and seeing how we need to incorporate them into the report. We think we looked at almost everything we could think of in those 20 plus concepts. But you know, we'd like to hear your comments on what we came up with, and we would reflect it in the final study report. If you like any of the materials relating to the study, they're all available on the website, including that 200-page revised draft study report, the newsletter, previous documents. They're all available on the website. And you're welcome to access them. And Melanie?
Thanks, Jerry. He does a great job explaining everything for the study. He really knows the area very well. At this point, I want to tell you about this, what we have here, and I want to say that the major alternatives that we're showing you are subject to this study right here, the Heroes Tunnel Alternative Construction Option Study, because we want the two to work hand in hand. We don't want to have conflicting recommendations for each study. So to tell you a little bit about this, this is an active preliminary engineering study. It began late last year. It's scheduled to wrap up sometime this summer with a constructability report comes out. As with any structure, the tunnel, it's reached a point in its life cycle where we have to start thinking about rehab. So obviously there's a lot of traffic that use the tunnel, so it could be a disruption in terms of how do you stage something like that. So the study is going to look at different alternatives for constructability, and it's going to take into account the traffic flow, the cost of the improvement, the length of the construction period, and also the life cycle of the tunnel, you know, how long before it's going to need rehab again, you know, something that's going to last a while. So after that's completed, when we secure funding, we're going to go to the preliminary design phase, which would last about a year and a half. And the study area for the Interchange 59 project is going to be revisited as part of this preliminary design. Because, again, if we alter the main line through Route 15, it's going to affect the study area greatly. So we want the two to work together. With the tunnel design, we're going to have a package of improvements. We foresee improvements to the tunnel itself as well as the immediate area. Again, we want the recommendations to work hand in hand, and I just want to stress to you that this is an active study going on right now, which is why it's important to coordinate the two studies together. The study area would be integrated into this preliminary design phase that I mentioned, and reconstructing the tunnel is a priority to the department, and I wanted to stress that to you as well. And now I'm going to hand it over to Colleen to talk a little bit more. Thanks.
I'm Colleen Cassane, as Melanie mentioned. I'm Assistant Planning Director of Strategic Planning, and I get the hard part of the presentation tonight, the when. Many of you know, and if you don't, we have a 5-year capital plan that is fiscally constrained, that includes any of our highway, our maritime, and our transit. It's on our website. I have a copy here tonight if anyone wants to look at it, but that's pretty much set. So what we're looking at now is what would be the next grouping of projects that we would look at, say, in the 5 to 10, 12-year period. The good news is, not that this project doesn't have merit on its own, but as Melanie mentioned, because we do have the Heroes Tunnel that is going to need rehabilitation sooner rather than later, and its proximity to this interchange, this project, elements of this project will rise up into that 5 to 10-year range from today. We do not want to prematurely make any predictions on what it would be and how it's going to tie in, because that will not be completed till this summer, but it's almost summer. So we're going to look at both alternatives, the alternatives that Jerry has outlined for you tonight and what comes out of that study. And one other thing I just wanted to mention too, there's some cards on the table back there. The department's doing a strategic plan. You may have heard about it. It's called Transform CT. We've done a number of outreach efforts in this area and around the state. And it's a 50-year vision. And it's not what the department wants to do, it's what the state of Connecticut wants to do. We're still in the stages of listening to stakeholders, any ideas you have. You can grab a card on your way out. It's a website. It's really cool. It's something called Mind Mixer, and it takes all of your ideas and kind of ranks them. You don't even have to put in ideas if you don't want to. You can share and look at what other people have put on. So we're looking at a constrained plan for 20 years in our strategic vision, and we're looking what are the big things that we see coming in the next 50. So I encourage you, if you have any comments based on what you heard, please fill out the forms tonight. If you'd rather do it at home, that's great too. You can do it on your computer. You can get onto our website. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back to Jerry so we can have any more discussion you may have or comments on the Interchange 59.
Just to make sure it's clear.
So far, I haven't heard anything about the new bridges. To accommodate both those 1 and 2, don't you have to widen the bridge?
Yes.
69 and 63?
Yes, it would need to be
Otherwise, the acceleration lanes.
correct. Yes. That is something that's reflected in the cost estimate, and that's part of the project to be able
That has
to.
been addressed. That's it.
Yes, it's addressed in the cost, and it's addressed in the description in the report. In a 20-minute presentation, it's very difficult to try to present a lot of details. But yes, Route 15 would need to be widened to be able to accommodate the additional acceleration lane, deceleration lane, and to be able to do that where it passes over Route 63 and 69, a bridge would have to do that. Correct.
This is being televised on public access TV, so we'd love you to use the microphone so you can have your moment of stardom.
Now you tell me it's being televised.
Thank you. I don't know if these drawings are to scale, but on phase 1, the midterm drawing, it's showing the new acceleration lane southbound on 15. I was just wondering if there was enough room for an exit ramp before Route 69.
Okay, you're talking about
Right side of that picture.
the southbound,
Is there enough, does that
yeah, is there enough room for,
an exit ramp?
that goes onto Route 69?
Yeah.
That was one of the 24 options that we looked at. But we decided that was not, we would be going through, we would have impact on West River. What we try to do is we try to balance the various considerations, competing needs, and come up with the one that made the most sense. And for the southbound direction, that's what we came up with.
Okay. And then one last question. The new north connector. So if I'm driving along, if I'm southbound on 15, and I'm getting off at the exit,
Okay,
right, and I come to that point right there,
yes.
what is that actually, what is that?
That's a signalized intersection. That's
Okay.
a new signalized intersection that would be created that would contain the 2 ramp termini, the southbound off-ramp, the southbound on-ramps, as well as the connector road approaches.
And is there a chance that people would drive from Amity Road over that connector to get to 69?
Yes. That would actually be one way that the track, one of the questions that came up before was, you know, alternatives 1 and 2 are great, but what are we doing for the traffic that's coming southbound on 63 that wants to go northbound on 15? And the answer is, they basically would have the option of coming along the North Connector Road and then using a loop ramp to do that. They would avoid Lucy Street, they would avoid Route 69. So it's not direct, but it would be better than what has to be done now.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I'm assuming that you're going to need to condemn a lot of property and buy a lot of property. And can you give us an estimate of how long that would take?
Well, going back to the competing needs, one of the needs was to minimize the right-of-way acquisition. You should see some of the things we came up with in the beginning. But that's why, if you notice, the North Connector Road really uses a lot of right-of-way that ConnDOT already has based on the existing RAM configuration. So there is not a lot of right-of-way that's involved in this area. And for the loop ramp, there is only a limited amount of right-of-way that's needed in that south western quadrant near the gas station. Where's Bill? Bill, do you have an estimate in terms of the right-of-way?
We don't have the numbers, but it's like it's very minimal. It's not. There are no total takes. They're just partial takes.
Yeah. Basically, you have to also recognize this is a planning study, so there are very preliminary right-of-way estimates that are based on GIS mapping that was done. More detailed surveys would be needed, but part of the goal of what we did was to try to minimize that. If you can imagine, we had actually shown a south connector road that mirrored the north connector road on the south, so it was on the south side, and it would provide for a similar arrangement for the northbound ramps, so that you'd have access from both Route 63 and Route 69 to northbound 15. But unfortunately, you've actually seen, this is a shopping center with Sam Ash, with Amity Wine and Spirit, with Westville Market. So we stepped back from that, and replacement was the loop ramp to try to make the conditions better for the northbound direction as well.
Right, because that shopping center is used almost as a public road by people who are trying to avoid some of the traffic crush.
Yes, yes. And what's amazing though is if I could spend a couple of minutes showing how the improvements we're recommending would help deal with that, because I think that's important. It's amazing to watch, to sit in that Sam Ash Emery Winesburg parking lot and just watch the traffic in both directions come through. And whoever owns the shopping center knows it. They put up 4 speed humps to try to discourage it, but people still do it. Because what people are doing is if they want to go onto northbound 15 from southbound 63, rather than sitting in all the traffic on Lucy on 69 and waiting to turn left, they basically just come down 63, they cut through that shopping center, they turn left onto Route 69, and they turn right onto Pond Lily, right? Giving people new ideas. But it's also
one aspect that has not been addressed is the air pollution caused by all this traffic that is stuck in that intersection by Lucy Street and 69 and 63 trying to go north and south. And you're absolutely correct. A 5-minute walk takes 20 minutes in a car. And you're talking about cars idling all that time and all that air pollution going up.
Right.
So the faster you can do something, the healthier the people who live there will become.
Well, this is consistent with the Village of Woodbridge concept development plan. By pulling some of the volume off of Lucy, it makes Lucy more able to handle pedestrian traffic that's desired. If I may, but the other move that uses that cut through is the traffic that's coming from, and it's a little bit off, it's the traffic that's coming from northbound 15 that wants to go onto northbound 63. So rather than turning left and following this path, they basically just turn right. And they turn right, and they cut through the shopping center, and they turn right again.
Well, and also, there's a tremendous amount of proposed building going on in Beacon Falls, Bethany, and possibly Woodbridge, which will add a tremendous number of cars at the rush hour time coming from the north down into the city or going towards New York and Hartford. And that will happen over the next 5 years. And have you calculated how many more cars you're going to have to expect to handle in this area?
Well, the projections that we got are for 2030, for the year 2030. And they do represent increases over the existing traffic volumes. The numbers that I gave you, for example, for the left turns that would be rerouted based on providing that loop ramp, those are based on the projections for the year 2030. If you go out there now and you counted the traffic, you wouldn't see that level of traffic. So the future projections do reflect growth in the area.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I wanted to ask about the pedestrian part of your project. I expect we're not waiting until 2030 to do that. That's in the near term, so I wondered what you meant by that, near term?
Pedestrian accommodations?
Yes.
That would have to be an integral part to all these recommendations that are being presented. One thing that stands out is, for example, along the North Connector Road. There would be provisions, I would expect, for there to be continuous sidewalks to get from Route 69 to Route 63. Where there are improvements made, sidewalk accommodations would need to be reflected in them.
I don't think we can wait. The sidewalks that we have right now are atrocious. I happen to live on Wright Avenue, one of the streets you mentioned, right at the junction of 63 and 69. And my husband is blind, so when we try to walk over to Starbucks, we cross once at that, the light where the new huge intersection is, that wasn't very well designed, and I like what you're doing with that part of it. However, when you continue walking along, the pictures you show don't show the ugly area you have to cross under the bridge, which is a sloped, rocky, just terrible area. And I tried, you don't see here,
Right, this
under
is,
that
this
thing.
is bad, but it's not as bad
That's
as that.
nothing compared to what we have to actually face. And, you know, being someone who's handicapped, he doesn't want to go out of the house, and I have to encourage him. It's very difficult to encourage someone when the status of the place is terrible. I've had this particular issue sitting for more than 2 years on See-Click Fix, and I don't think we should have to wait until all these grand improvements are made. I think there should be some sort of cooperation between Woodbridge, New Haven, and the state to get it done now. I'm not the only one who walks there, and neither is my husband, so. The other question I had is about Fowler Street. I didn't hear any mention of it, but it's regularly backed up. So the traffic, Wright Avenue is here and Fowler is here. It's almost impossible to turn from Fowler Street onto 69 to go towards New Haven. It takes forever and it completely blocks up the area, always during rush hour. And I think that should also be looked into at the same time while you're doing your review. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a member of the West River Watershed Coalition, which is a group of organizations and individuals in New Haven and Woodbridge, and hopefully including West Haven and Bethany as well, looking to the health of the entire watershed area. And this has obviously shown a good deal of respect for the things that we're interested in here. I want to mention two items in particular. I agree with the previous speaker about sidewalks. There's really no reason why we should not get the sidewalks in soon, and they do need to be continuous through this area, probably on both sides of the major streets. The other is, you mentioned the possibility of a right turn lane onto Pond Lily from Route 69. I do not think that is necessary, and I don't think it's appropriate. We'll need that space for pedestrian and possibly bicycle access. And I use that now, even with the horrible conditions of that intersection in general. To turn right from 69 onto Pond Lily is not the problem. There's a little delay, but it's not a serious problem. So I would just take that off the list right now.
That's why we labeled this as optional.
Right.
It should make or break the project.
You mentioned the immediate north of Lucy Street as possibly increasing the number of lanes on that section between Lucy and Landon Street?
Well, it would be just widening the southbound approach on Litchfield Turnpike, Route 69, approaching Lucy Street.
Right.
Not extending it all the way back to Landon. Just widen the approach, the two lanes, so that you have two continuous lanes that would flow to the intersection with the southbound ramps.
Right. Well, there's not a lot of space there for doing too much widening, and the town of Woodbridge has a plan to put sidewalks on that area almost immediately. And if you're going to widen that, you'll be taking those sidewalks away? I mean, is there any connection between the town and your department to figure out what they're going to do if they put sidewalks? They're talking about it this year, putting the sidewalks there this year, and then if you're going to widen the road, what will that do to the sidewalks that are there? I didn't know if you realized they were going to put sidewalks there.
The sidewalks would have to be relocated.
Do you think maybe you could kind of coordinate this effort, because we own property right there and the sidewalks are going to be going in, so.
I believe the town would be coordinating with our district office on that.
the town. Has the town thought about that?
We are coordinating with the district on that.
Many years.
First, I want to say, I think this is a creative plan. I like this plan. But one thing I've wondered about in the area that we need, and I know asphalt isn't very popular these days, but I think the area could benefit from a commuter lot. I know in Orange on 34, I used to commute up to Hartford, there's one, I mean, it's fully used. And I was wondering if the state is still considering that notion of commuter lots to actually ease vehicular traffic, going back and forth the Merritt. And if it is, if this area has ever been considered, because I think many people here commute up to Hartford from here, and this is the access area to get there from the Westville area, Oxford on down. So I was just wondering about that notion.
I don't know offhand of any plans to add a commuter lot there. Okay. Offhand, I don't know of any plans to add a commuter lot. It's something that we could take into consideration for the future. We do have a commuter lot coordinator, so we can make them aware of the need there.
Well, it's my perceived need, but...
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jody Alonso. I'm Chairman of the Economic Development Commission of Woodbridge. I commend your thorough research of the plan. I do have some issues. Phase 1, which is solely the intersection of 63 and 69, frankly should have been taken care of 6 years ago or 10 years ago when that intersection was created. It's been a disaster since it was created. Therefore, I'm skeptical of how fast we'll implement it. If that's a known need for at least since the time I first entered that intersection, I'm not sure what that bodes for timing. Currently, you have, as part of Alternative 2, Phase 2, the widening of Litchfield Turnpike from Lucy Street and to the Merritt. Frankly, the first time I'm hearing of any additional widening past Lucy Street north on Litchfield Turnpike is tonight. The town has a steep grant has been granted a steep grant, as Ms. Dickerson said, for sidewalks north of Lucy Street, which have been approved, which I believe are in the process of being surveyed. So yes, a little coordination is warranted. But I'm gravely concerned why the widening of the area from Lucy Street down to the Merritt is not being taken care of now. That would, in the short term, alleviate congestion. In the long term, I don't think the widening of the tunnel or the fixing of the tunnel will impact that at all. There's really very little alternative for that section, and so that section should proceed immediately and get rid of so much of the traffic congestion that we in Woodbridge and the people coming down from Bethany and north experience every day.
Yes, I definitely understand your concern with the congestion in the area. We're actually going to be setting up a meeting with our project concepts unit to talk about the possible widening on Route 69 south of Lucy Street, like you're saying. It's not a complete perfect solution in that when you widen, you're also creating a larger area for people, say, turning out of the shopping plazas to have to cross over. It could create somewhat of a safety concern, which is, I think, why there's a little hesitation there, also the cost of the right-of-way. But it is something we're going to be discussing with our project concepts unit in the very near future.
But the cost of the right-of-way, thank you, I appreciate the safety concerns, but the cost of the right-of-way is not going to change, regardless of what you do with the tunnel. So ideally, it should be separated out now and proceeded on the fast track.
Okay, yeah, that's one of the things that we would consider possibly separating out of that.
Hello. Came in a little late, so I didn't get to hear all of when it was actually going to begin. But my biggest question is that how is it going to impact all this work that's being done in this area all the businesses around in the area, has a study been done about this? All the work that you're planning on doing in the area, has a study been done as to how it's going to impact the businesses that are already established there, as far as drive-throughs? You know, you got congestion there now, terrible congestion. How is it going to impact the businesses in that area?
Well, one thing that we had to include in the considerations was just that. And if you look at the North Connector Road, which is alternative 1, it really is in an area that's open. A lot of it is Connecticut DOT right-of-way. There is some other right-of-way that would be involved, but it's not property that fronts on Route 63 or Route 69 that would affect access or egress to the businesses along there. So I don't see an issue relating to that. In general, this is a planning study, and as a project progresses into design, one of the major components is the maintenance and protection of traffic plan. How do you build it while still allowing for the traffic to continue to move, and also providing for access to the businesses that are next to the road? All that has to be addressed as part of the maintenance and protection of traffic plan. But in terms of what we're recommending here as part of alternative 1, I don't see that as being a significant issue. In terms of alternative 2, if you don't mind me advancing, even here, if you look at the alignment of the loop ramp, that also is mostly within right-of-way that is currently in the possession of Connecticut DOT. There is some right-of-way implication here involving the gas station. So that would have to be worked out at that point when the maintenance and protection of traffic plan is developed to make sure that the gas station has adequate access. But the improvements that we're recommending are very focused, and they're in specific areas. So you wouldn't have the wholesale business impact that you may be concerned about.
I guess my concern isn't so much the sales. Of course we're concerned with the sales. Everyone is concerned with their sales. But I also have carriers that are out there unloading your area, that are in that specific area. So impacting them can also be a problem. That's why I was asking, not so much, I think it's great that you're going to do something with the connector. That's perfectly honest. I'm fairly new to the area, so watching me go through all of this traffic to get to someone that requires my help out there is pretty tough in that area. My thing is that as you begin this project, how is it going to be for the carriers out there? And it has a study been done? That's where the study is that I'm asking. Has a study been done as to how it can impact somebody like that has to make deliveries? There's not only me, there's UPS, there's FedEx, there's all these other companies that have to get through this area to get to the businesses there.
You know, all of that would be part of the maintenance and protection of traffic plan. That would have to address how our delivery is made to the businesses along the roadways involved in the construction project.
Okay.
That comes later on. This is still a planning study.
Planning
We're trying to identify the alternatives that should be progressed, and also identify what issues there are that remain to be resolved. You see there are a whole series of issues that were identified as needing further study.
So there will be another meeting soon after this or shortly after this in reference to what the next step is going to be, or when we're going to begin the project?
Yes, in terms of the shorter term that I mentioned before, that's going to be within very immediate future. We're going to meet with the project concepts unit about, more near-term options. In terms of the longer-term options, that's going to go hand in hand with the tunnel study. Like, I don't know if you missed the first part, but that's scheduled to wrap up this summer. And then once we get the funding secured, we go into the preliminary design phase, and that's when we start looking at the larger alternatives.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Comments, questions?
We need some relief
Hi, I'm Frank DeLeo, and I'm with the West River Restoration Committee in Woodbridge. Our concern is for some of the drainage going into that West River from the roads when they're built, and the impact on that river as far as the sediment going in. So possible catch basins or whatever needs to be done should be addressed to not get so much pollution into the water. There's some things being done right now. Hopefully at that end with you people could be addressed. Also, the other question I had was the northbound ramp onto the tunnel, which Frank addressed, should probably be eliminated. I'm talking about widening that northbound ramp onto the tunnel before Ponnelly Avenue.
You mean the right turn lane?
The right turn lane, yeah, where you're talking about widening that. I think that should be scratched. Because it's so close to the river that it's probably going to have some effect on it.
Right, that's why we said further.
Yeah, that's the option you had, so you probably want to scratch that. And again, the lady that spoke about the pedestrian access, that's very important. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in the area that are concerned about that pedestrian access, and we want to keep that in mind, especially on that right-hand side coming from Ponnelly Avenue up under the bridge. I understand there's room there for some sort of sidewalks. We should.
Yeah, there is a lot of room on the north or east side.
But the rest of the area is very tight, and it's going to be a challenge. So I think a lot of thought has to be put into how we're going to get pedestrian access up to Landis Street from from the bridge onto Landis Street in that area. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the environmental impacts, we would be looking at in the future environmental things. And in terms of the drainage of the area, any roads that would be impacted, we would be looking at the existing drainage capacity of the road and whether that needed to be upgraded as part of the improvement. In terms of the sidewalks, we definitely understand the need for sidewalk, and understanding too that the sidewalk has to make sure that there's connection, that it could connect to other sidewalks as well. So it has to be all looked at together.
Okay. Hi, I'm Marty Platt. Play a little bit of radical here. In deference to the two gentlemen who talked about the Route 69 northbound, the right-hand lane before the Merritt Parkway, I find that there's a tremendous amount of traffic backed up because at that point in time there's two lanes. The left lane is going under the highway, and a lot of those people turn to go southbound. The people in the right-hand lane, it can be one of two things. Either they're going right, going to the highway, or they're going straight. What seems to happen at that red light, I play a game. I go in the left-hand lane because people in the right-hand lane, somebody's going straight and they're holding everybody up and going back. Now, I don't know about the environmental impact. I don't want to question that piece of it. But if it's possible to widen that at that point in time, so the people who want to go on the highway northbound can do that, it wouldn't hold the traffic going all the way back. The people in what I would call at that point in time the center lane could continue going straight north, and the people in the left lane at that point in time then could go under, take the connector and go up to the highway. So again, I don't know about the environmental impact, but I do know that the traffic at that point in time would be a lot faster and a lot smoother going through there. Because again, if you're going straight, you're holding everybody up behind you who want to go northbound onto the highway. And at that point in time, I'm sitting there judging, is this person going or not going, and then I play a little game, and I go, and then I have to swing over to the right. So again, it's just a thought.
For all the reasons you mentioned, that's why it's in there, but because of the environmental issues, it's considered optional, subject to the further environmental studies.
Now, I understand that piece, I'm just saying it would make things a lot smoother going through there.
Yes. Any other comments?
you ever think about building a skyway? That could solve everybody's problem.
So this bridge on Litchfield Turnpike, Route 15 bridge, would that remain as is throughout this project, or could that be widened, the roadway beneath that bridge?
You're talking about the mainline structure of Route 15 over Route 69?
Yes.
Well, I could answer it, and then maybe Bill could get into more detail. The condition of
Right now, it sounds like we're working within that existing span,
correct.
okay?
The bridge condition is, from what is pretty good, which is why we're working by adding a bridge that would carry the
Decelerate the off-ramp lane. So, yes, we would essentially keep the bridge as is, and then we had an additional lane that was an exclusive off-ramp lane to the right of that, as you're coming down, so we can keep the existing bridge, but have the section to it for the deceleration lane.
Okay, so my question is, if that span on 69 from that existing bridge restricted that dimension, would that, and it sounds like it's causing a restraint on that width of the road.
I'm not sure I understand the question, sorry. I think you might be alluding to the point, if the bridge was in poor condition, if the bridge was in poor condition and needed to be replaced, would it be rebuilt differently? Is that what you're asking?
No.
No?
If there was more width in that opening that would be needed to do what you wanted to do with sidewalks, extra lanes and everything, would that bridge be widened?
I
Would that span?
I think you're talking about being on Route 69, not on Route 15, right? That's the question?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think on the east side of Route 69, there is a lot of, I would say about 20 feet or so,
Yes.
that you can do sidewalks if you need to do it.
If the bridge was wider.
And even if the bridge is wider, it wouldn't affect what's happening on Route 69 because it's going to be overhead. And the abutment would not necessarily affect the existing addition that we have at this point.
If you wanted to make another lane on 69 going through that bridge, under that bridge, where would you do it? You can't do it on the riverside. You'd have to do it on the other side, wouldn't you?
Yeah, there's no room for it, right, Larry? To have something on the west side and the other side,
Yeah.
it's not.
Okay, so could the bridge be eliminated, knocked down, made wider, or another lane? Traveling 69.
Yeah, I think the condition of the bridge, I would say, doesn't warrant, you're saying just get a different bridge, it's going to cost millions of dollars just to get an additional lane at this point.
So
It's a cost.
you're working with the existing
That's
sites.
correct.
Good evening, great presentation. I'm Al Time, I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission in town. And we're going through, we just had a charrette, we're doing our plan of conservation and development, as you know. And of course, you talked about the village concept, which has been worked on for quite some time. And I'm sure that most of the people here are most interested in, again, how long these phases that you've talked about are likely to take based upon the history of the department. Because I think that will give everybody some solace when they go home, because they haven't heard those answers yet. And perhaps you can, talk about when do we get to the design development phase, and what happens after that, how long does this usually take, so that having been familiar, for instance, with the construction of the bridge in Shelton, between Derby and Shelton, that went from about 78 to the 90s. Okay, so I think it would be helpful for everybody here as we think about sidewalks, for instance, because there is money already allocated. There are the plans in place. You don't want to duplicate, but if it's going to take 10 years, you may not worry about it quite as much. So maybe you could just share that with us as to what your thinking would be based on current developments and what you see as the next phases of development.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, for the more near-term ideas such as the intersection at Wright Avenue, the complicated intersection with the channelization. That would be more within the 0 to 5 year range because there's not a lot of right-of-way involved. Whenever there's a right-of-way phase, that's going to add a few years. In terms of longer-term solutions, such as maybe the alternative 1 or 2, you get into right-of-way phases, you have to do an environmental phase where you have to look at the impacts to all the streams and the ecology of the area, the community. You would have to go to a design phase and finally a construction phase. So I believe they're listed in the report as that alternative 1 would be within, I believe, a 5 to 10 year range. Yeah, and the alternative 2 would be more of a 10 plus range. But again, we're working with the tunnel study here. I don't foresee that adding any more additional time onto this, but it's going to follow along the same path as the tunnel study.
Put your sidewalks in.
Okay.
You say short term, medium term, long term. So can you define it based upon that?
I believe in the report that we broke into a near term as a 0 to 5.
I'm just looking at what you have here, and you use different nomenclature.
In the full-blown report, we identified near term as 0 to 5.
Yeah.
The medium term is 5 to 10, and long term years, and long term is 10 plus.
And so, does that mean the commencement of construction in those particular phases that you're talking about? Let's just say it's 0 to 5, so we're at the end of 5 years. Does that mean that construction has begun by the end of that 5-year term, or what you're talking about? Is that fair to say? And so the next question would be, so once it starts, how long does it take?
In terms of when you start the construction?
Well, if you're talking about, I'm doing a certain project, this is my phase 1, I'm going to do it within the next 5 years. So whenever it is, 3.5, 4, 5 years, I've now started. How long is it going to take?
Yeah, it's definitely not a cookie cutter formula that can be used for every project because first of all, you got to get the funding for the study. And there's many different funding sources. There's safety funding, there's funding through the region. So it's not an easy answer, but again, we're giving you our best estimate as to, in the report, as to how long each one of these would take. It's possible that it may not have a lot of environmental impacts and that part could go smoothly, or it could find that there's major environmental impacts. But we don't know until we get into the phase how long it's going to last, whether if there's a right-of-way take, if there's going to be complications with that. This is our best estimate. I mean, we obviously want things to go as smoothly and as fast as possible.
I think the concern, and I don't want to monopolize anymore, but is that the sooner you can get into these other phases, the quicker you can get to construction.
Oh yes, as soon as you can start
and you can alleviate all the concerns of most of the citizens here.
Exactly. As soon as you can get into the environmental and design phase, that's a huge effort right there.
That's the coordination at the state level, which we would appreciate.
Yes, definitely. Okay.
Clarify when day job.
I'm certainly not doing that.
Yeah, there's many different. Yeah, the funding could be applied from the region or from the city or from the state, obviously the capital plan. Safety improvements, they fall under a different funding category. There's congestion, funding for congestion problems, there's all different. Oh no, there's never a guarantee, but it's based on the needs. If there's a high need, then it has a better chance of getting the funding.
Could you clarify something for me? The term widen has been thrown around in a manner that maybe I'm dense, I'm a little confused. When I look at 69 coming south, but north of Lucy Street, immediately, there's definitely one lane, and the diagram says you're going to make 2 lanes. I understand that. but south of Lucy Street to the Parkway, there's already 2 lanes. So when you say widen, are you talking about making a 3rd lane or making 2 wider lanes? What is it? Because I don't understand how widening 2 existing lanes to 2 wider lanes is going to help the traffic.
No, you have to look closer. South of Lucy,
Yeah.
there's a section that's 1 lane until it widens out to 2 lanes by Yarn Barn. But there's a 1-lane section. It's a short section.
Oh, right, well, right when you make the right turn from Lucy Street onto 69 South, there's a tiny section that's 1 lane?
It's a short section.
Okay, so that's what you're
And
going to
then
make
it
2
widens,
lanes.
and then it already widens out to 2 lanes.
Okay,
But
I'm
there's
sorry,
that
yeah.
1-lane section on southbound 69, south of Lucy, up to about Yarn Barn.
Okay, understand, thank you.
I think at this time, we're going to kind of close and ask if you have any questions at all, any comments, feel free to come up to me, any of the consultant team, we'd be happy to answer your questions. If you have comments, please either submit them in the box or you can visit the website and do that there. But we really appreciate you all coming out tonight and hearing everything you have to say. And hopefully we've been helpful to present the study to you. So thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you.